Hi everyone, I'm Moose, and just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, we're diving into the deep end to slay some more sharks. Sharks are deadlier than most cinematic slashers combined, and they just so happen to be real, which is why these silent killers are so satisfying in survival horror movies like 47 Meters Down Uncaged. The sequel to 2017's claustrophobic chiller is coming to theaters August 16th, sending 4 swimmers on a terrifying trek through a ruined underwater city, surrounded by sharks and running out of air. So we've partnered with 47 Meters Down Uncaged to seek out some surefire methods to help you survive a shark movie. Take a deep breath, climb into your cage, and try to keep your blood inside your body, because this is how to kill killer sharks. Now, we are not going to cover Sharknadoes here because, well, they're a whole nother can of worms, worthy of their own How to Kill episode, and unless you've got access to lightsaber chainsaws, time travel, and a nuclear-powered cyborg Tara Reid, you're pretty much screwed. And since we've already covered the titular terror from the Jaws franchise, today we're gonna give Bruce a break and focus on his less famous brethren. Spielberg's seminal classic didn't just give birth to the modern blockbuster, it also inspired an entire school of imitators, many of which took a cue from Jaws and disposed of their deadly sharks with explosions.
And of course we just thought, like everyone else, that these stupid sharks will bite anything.
Let's start with The Last Shark, aka Great White, aka L'Ultimo Squalo. AKA the movie so similar to Jaws that Universal successfully sued the crap out of it. This Italian knockoff hits all the same beats: peaceful resort town, authority figure who refuses to shut down the beaches, terrible looking fake shark.
Jesus.
Although, credit where it's due, Jaws never had a scene where the shark eats a guy hanging off a helicopter, then eats the helicopter. That wouldn't happen until Jaws 2. As for the explosive finale, where our hero feeds his dead friend to the fish and detonates the explosives attached to the body, I'm a big fan. Look, I am a proud organ donor, but if my body can't provide life-saving transplants for people in need, then you better believe my second choice is strapping my corpse with explosives and blowing up a shark with it. The Last Shark was anything but. The sharksploitation genre endured throughout the decades, and more than a few films end in a similarly explosive fashion. Still, on-screen sharks have evolved just a little more than the real deal have, like the genetically modified monstrosities in Deep Blue Sea. These massive makos shocked the world when they snacked on Sam Jackson, but they met a grisly end thanks to explosives, electricity, and then a combination of both. Blowing up the beast is a surefire way to slay a shark, but if you don't want to risk playing with dynamite when you're on the open seas, you could always turn it into a frozen fish stick. Sharks are utterly deadly in their aquatic element, but unless you're in a Junji Ito comic, you're pretty safe on dry land. That is, until some brain genius slams some genes together and creates a human-shark hybrid that can walk on 2 legs. Now, on rare occasions, these man-made monsters end up helping humankind.
You know, this saving the world business really works up an appetite.
But in most cases, getting spliced with a shark sends you on a very unrighteous path. Both Marvel and DC have multiple shark-themed villains. King Shark even showed up on The Flash to completely blow the CW's CG budget. And believe me, he looked way better than Sharkman. In this straight-to-sci-fi classic, a father saves his son from a terminal illness by transforming him into a shark boy. And once he's all grown up, the monster goes on a poorly edited murder frenzy. But the Chimera meets a chilling demise when our hero sprays gallons of liquid nitrogen down his maw, freezing and shattering the spliced-up Sharkman. Now, mutant shark people are pretty scary, but they're not something you should really worry about. The next time you head to the beach, just make sure you pack your shark repellent. As we all know, the Dark Knight does not have any superpowers in the traditional sense, but Batman is prepared for every eventuality. That's why the Caped Crusader always keeps a few cans of oceanic repellent spray handy in the Batcopter. After all, you never know when a shark stuffed with dynamite is gonna latch onto your leg.
My leg!
The wobbly rubber menace brushes off the Batman's devastating blows, but when Robin passes him the official shark repellent bat spray, the fish falls and then blows up for good measure. This scene is the first thing people point to when talking about how campy and unrealistic the 66 Batman series was, but the shark repellent actually exists. I don't know. Today, you could purchase your very own Anti-Shark 100 spray, and reviews are kind of mixed as to how well it works. So if you find yourself facing against, say, an ancient megalodon, I would advise against testing it in the field, because your best bet to kill it is to make this thing bleed. The Meg is one of the most underrated monster movies of the modern age. It's so good, I watched it on a plane twice. Now, these giant prehistoric super sharks known as megalodons are technically extinct, so your odds of running into one are pretty damn low. But if you hang around the hidden depths of the Marianas Trench, you might be lucky enough to run into one. This mini megalodon is the shark of Jason Statham's nightmares, but our heroes are surprisingly successful at poisoning this prehistoric predator with barely a moment to spare. Which brings us to the biggest shock in the movie. At the moment of triumph when our heroes are celebrating their huge catch, an even more massive monster leaps out of the water and feasts on its fallen brethren. The old transporter knows there's only one way to sink that bad boy for good. He carves open its gullet with his cute little submersible, then as the mortally wounded Meg leaps above the waves, he plunges a spear through its eye, crunching through the cerebral cortex. Now there is a lot of blood inside of that bad boy, which prove irresistible to the Meg's more minuscule modern descendants, who proceed to chow down. Now look, I realize you're probably not going to be an expert undersea rescue person guy like Jason Statham, and if you're trapped on a rock or drifting out to sea, you're gonna have to improvise. In The Shallows, when surfer Blake Lively finds herself stranded on a rock with a massive chunk taken out of her leg,
My leg!
she's stuck with little more than her surfboard and some jewelry to stave off the shark that stalks her. But as the high tide threatens her hiding spot, she makes a desperate move for a nearby buoy. But as the buoy sinks, she straps onto a chain and plummets down to the depths below with the shark in hot pursuit. At the last second, she jukes, snapping that shark's ankles if it had ankles, and the great white's momentum impales it on a pile of rebar. Now, the situation in The Shallows is far from ideal, but at least there was plenty of oxygen available. That is not going to be the case if you're trapped, say, 47 meters down. The upcoming sequel, 47 Meters Down Uncaged, is looking even more intense than the 2017 film that preceded it. And as the title promises, the film is bringing the aquatic action out of the cage and into a deadly underwater labyrinth with toothy terror around every corner. The ruined city in 47 Meters Down Uncaged gives our four unsuspecting teens a lot more room to move around compared to the cramped cage quarters of the first movie. But that means even more hiding spots for the deadliest species of sharks to stalk their prey, as they desperately gasp for breath while the air supply slowly trickles down. 47 Meters Down Uncaged will be unleashed on theaters August 16th, the latest in a long legacy of horror films that play with our fear of what lurks in the darkest depths of the ocean. There's only so much a human can do in the face of 400 million years of evolution, but that doesn't mean you can't go down swinging. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks to 47 Meters Down Uncaged for making this video possible. The sequel is swimming into theaters August 16th, so make sure you get your tickets now and avoid the feeding frenzy. And as always, please subscribe to Now This Nerd.